8 grand. Yeah. Yes, it's gonna be me, Eric, and another artist out of Wilkes-Barre. Name is Grayson. Hopefully we're gonna start the last weekend this month. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I want to build rapport and relationships with the right people, and not, I'm not trying to like not be a team player or whatever like that. But yeah, all right, sounds like a plan. No, no, no. Yeah, just like I said, just hear her out and see what her offers are, and see what kind of help she can provide, and if it seems logical, and then I'll move forward from there. I definitely will. All right, I sure appreciate it. Have a good evening, man. All right, bye. All right, so yeah, my mural project is like right around the corner, so I'm just trying to get a lot of all my ducks in a row, so I can just walk through this mural with no issues and no problems. The politics, the politics.
Okay, so I don't usually like doing this, but and things have changed because this Ethan Klein character, H3, I guess brought on a lawyer, which we're not, a pro YouTube corporate, which we're not going to get into because, look, I'm not going to do anything legal in the court of public opinion. Let's let that happen in the courts. But there's this program, and people have been asking us to address it, and you may not be familiar with it, H3H3. The guy's name is Ethan, and we laughed not long ago about him saying that people shouldn't think about critical scientific and medical issues. This was the clip which got him upset. I don't think I've ever seen a more perfect encapsulation of groupthink and discouraging any sort of critical thinking whatsoever and laughing about it with no self-awareness. This is my favorite clip of the year. Let's roll it.
They said you gotta wear a mask, so I'm out there wearing a mask. Yeah. Wow, big deal. And then now they say, you know, if you're outside, you don't need to wear a mask. It's pretty simple. You want to talk about who's dumb?
Yeah, I mean, the CDC is like this whole governmental body with scientists and that just tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude.
After dark.
Again, look, and I still think it's funny. I've never seen anybody so smug about being so ignorant. Now, let me be clear. Of course we had some fun, but it was criticizing the idea. I do think it's a bad thing to tell people out there, young, impressionable people, because, you know, especially when you have an audience who's like 9 years old, when you've had to adapt your content to be YouTube friendly, to tell them not to think critically. Now, to be clear, we usually go after political figures, signed authoritative sources right on this show. Usually those are the people we have to debate. Change My Mind is not a debate, but we've had politicians, scientists, Pulitzer winners, and every now and then a layup crosses our path who, you know, just kind of like the shtick that you're only capable of. H3, right? That's the only thing you can do is do the YouTube drama. So apparently some didn't like it, had some harsh criticism for me, namely Ethan. And he had this criticism to issue about us, again, not being smart enough to think critically and double down on the fact that one shouldn't. It's so stupid. Why is he questioning the CDC or Fauci? Yeah, seriously, bro. You're not a doctor. I don't want to think about things.
Bro, do you in question, like, let's say
It's so dumb.
It's like so
dumb, dude.
Do you go to the doctor and then bro, I literally can't. Do you go to the pharmacy and overlook you be like, oh, is that the right medicine?
Yes. Yes, I do.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
once they give me the wrong medication, I have my doctor make sure they got the right one. Yes.
Don't need
do I read labels of pills I take?
And you don't understand how disease prevention works, then you should be listening to Dr. Fauci and the CDC.
Okay, good. Think about it, dude.
Exactly. It's that simple.
Just don't think. It's kind of electrolytes.
Imagine you wouldn't even have to make this video if you just didn't even think about it.
You're doubling down.
Than you that dedicated their whole life to scientific research. You look at all the stress and strain on them that could have been prevented.
Oh, Steven. I'm so stressed.
Think about it.
Yeah, all the stress and strain on me that would make me gray and walking recessive genetic polymorphism, incapable of growing contractile tissue. It's taking its toll. Okay.
This is
I understand what you're saying.
Shitty conversation at Starbucks.
I understand what you're saying there. And of course, you need to trust. You need to aggregate and verify. I never claimed to be a doctor. That's why we have them on our show. That's why we provide the sources that we do. However, yes, I do read labels of pills that I take. And for example, talking about like supplements, yeah, I make sure it's GMP certified, or I make sure that it's NSF certified, especially when I used to compete, because you have to make sure that this thing isn't tainted. Not saying that doesn't make me a supplement manufacturer. It makes me cautiously skeptical. And by the way, this is what matters. The CDC, he just said Fauci and the CDC. Yeah. I mean, the fact that, look, Ethan, the fact that you're not aware, I guess, of the Fauci emails and the fact that he was telling the people one thing while believing another behind the scenes, and this has been released, this should tell you that trusting one person blindly is a problem. Let's just go through some examples of where we criticize, and I know that you're pro YouTube banning and deplatforming. We'll get to that in a second, because one of our warnings was we accurately cited the CDC data, but they didn't like that we did. Let's go to the CDC. Okay, let's go to example one. You have CDC, you have World Health Organization. In January, the World Health Organization said there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission. That was echoed by the CDC. Okay. January 2021, the CDC published a journal in JAMA claiming that nearly 60% of COVID cases came from asymptomatic carriers. Then in April, different CDC study found that asymptomatic carriers were unlikely to substantially contribute to the spread of COVID. This just happened, I believe, today or yesterday.
Yikes.
California. Wow. The scientists don't even listen, bro. Doesn't have to think about it, dude. So fucking stupid, bro. Look, they just reduced their death rate by 25% in California because
that's a lot.
Whoopsie, we had it wrong. And something that you need to understand, I'm not saying that in all of these, now in these instances, I was right. Because I said, I think it can transmit to humans, and for example, I think you can't trust the World Health Organization because they work with China, they're very close, and it seems like there might be a lab leak. We work right, but science isn't governed. It's not determined by consensus. It's determined by what's true. And that's why you have different scientific voices. You trust only the CDC and Fauci. We aggregate Fauci, CDC, World Health Organization, other doctors, and qualified immunologists, epidemiologists. And yes, that's a difference in a worldview that I have. So Fauci's email is right here that in case you didn't know, I don't think that he remembers. Yeah. But yeah, he had said he had emails saying masks weren't effective, the masks sold at drugstores. He also denied gain-of-function research, even though we know now from the emails that he actually did know about it. And of course, the funding to the Wuhan lab. There are a lot of things that happened that they were just misleading about. So I don't know why you would simply trust a government entity and be so smug about people who think critically. And by the way, we'll also get to the point that we provide references and sources so that everyone else can educate themselves, which you've never done. You just go, so fucking stupid, bro. I'm going to call YouTube executives to get them banned, because it's like borderline, dude. All right, so now let's go to them doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on group, which, by the way, and I want to say this too, because from what I understand, Ethan's wife is Israeli, and we've talked about the Israeli conflict, defended them, of course, their right to exist. And I know that you probably suffer some anti-Semitic comments here on YouTube. I've seen them. We've received them just for supporting Israel, and it's horrible. It's abhorrent. You also need to understand that Israelis, just government agencies, sold some people some bullshit. And thank God, part of the influence for the Holocaust was using health guidelines, was telling people that this was for their own public health safety. I think that the Nazis were wrong.
Yes.
Everyone has the right to criticize. And as a matter of fact, everyone has...
Tomato.
Yes. Tomato Goebbels.
Yes. Yeah. Well.
Everyone has an obligation to do their own research. You believe they shouldn't. You discourage it actively. We encourage it actively, regardless of where we line up on our points of view. That's the idea that I'm criticizing, that Ethan, of course, doubled down on here. And it's just, I'm sorry for people watching here who don't want to have to deal with this, but this is the kind of stuff that your kids, a few of them, may be watching.
And you gotta wear a mask, so I'm also wearing a mask. Wow, big deal. And then now they say, if you're outside, you don't need to wear a mask. It's pretty simple. You want to talk about who's dumb?
Yeah, I mean, the CDC is like this whole governmental body with scientists that just tell us what to do. You don't have to think about it, dude. Obviously, my point is that if you're so fucking stupid, then yeah, you should listen to the CDC, bro. It's there.
Maybe you should.
I don't understand this assumption that
you should keep.
We're saying the same thing in a different tone.
Doctors have spent their whole life studying disease.
Hey man, epidemiology is the word you're looking for. Epidemiology
he's not
is the word.
Anti-vax, he's just asking questions, right? I mean, it makes sense too, so I choose to listen to it. It's logical. They're not telling me go jump off a building, and I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense, but I'll do it anyway.
I'm telling you to shut down businesses.
They're saying
wear a mask. That doesn't transmit to humans.
With the disease that
spreads.
Pills without reading the label.
Like it's pretty easy.
It spreads through droplets and aerosols.
I kind of don't have a problem
this
with
wonderful Mensa gathering.
Talking about when they also are making sense.
When you look at ingredients on your food, do you go to the packing plant and then re-examine everything?
I look at the ingredient profile, of course.
I just read the ingredients.
Read the ingredients and make sure it's a reputable company.
Yeah, oh my God, I wore a mask.
I can't believe I wore a mask during that pandemic. Oh, that was so fucking stupid of me. I should never have listened to these scientists that spent their whole life studying this.
Which scientists?
I gotta think for myself. I don't know.
How stupid you said that! Speak for myself.
Seriously, this was at the table next to me, I would leave the restaurant.
You need to wear a mask, and then he said you do need to wear a mask, and he changed his mind based on the situation, right?
They send emails from Chinese officials, but you haven't read
You
those.
just trust what the tissue people tell you? You trust that coffee you're drinking? You just
Change your
trust?
mind. It's not information.
You could be making decisions that could impact your health forever by trusting that that's coffee.
I tasted
You're
it.
already too far. In prison, man, you said they tell you what to do. You don't even have to think about it, dude. Look, that's not a good rule of thumb for anything in life. But they act like.
I mean, it's a good rule. I mean, yeah, when you're as dumb as you, they can't understand shit.
Can't pronounce epidemiologist.
Biohazard. You should listen to CDC, bro. I know that. I mean, what's the point of government if we don't trust these whole institutions that we've propped up, funded, regulated?
Well, you don't
the whole
blindly
society breaks
trust
down.
the government.
All of it, even.
Doesn't the Israeli Jew next to him have some thoughts about that? They had to create this whole land because they didn't trust any governments that existed? And I support.
Wasn't America kind of based on that whole thing?
To say they wear a mask, bro.
Okay.
During a pandemic and with an airborne virus.
Okay. So look, let me.
Airborne.
Yeah, airborne again. That's not talking about. Okay. Let's assume that I'm as dumb as you. As dumb as you sound. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
You could be,
Hey,
listen.
Never know.
Spectrum could be really intelligent. As dumb as you sound right now. Let's assume we're both dumb. Okay. This comes down to a worldview. Let's assume that we're both not doctors. You say we should trust up these institutions who we've propped up. By the way, we haven't necessarily propped them up. Fauci, was he voted in? That's what one of the arguments, but I know you haven't gone that far out from the trunk into the branches. One of the arguments is you have one of the highest paid officials in government, some of the most highly paid officials in government, never held private office, and there's never been an election. So to act as though we should blindly trust these organizations, your worldview is, we're so dumb, we should trust the World Health Organization, who said no human-to-human transmission, who said no way there's a lab leak, and then you two banned people who suggested it. You're saying we should blindly trust the CDC because everyone is too dumb out there. You believe that your audience is so dumb they couldn't possibly do their own research, and you actively discourage it. So let's assume neither one of us are doctors. We're both dumb. The difference is we actually provide sources and references every single day. Bring those up right there. CDC, World Health Organization, PubMed. And by the way, every single one of those, every single show, you can go to loudwithcrowder.com, go to the actual post of the video, and we provide all these references below. Right? We have all of these links below where you can see, and we put them in the description. Why? Because I don't believe that people should trust me blindly, nor the World Health Organization, nor the CDC.
Nor anyone.
My worldview is you should, of course, aggregate the word and the advice, the wise counsel of scientists, of by the way, not just Fauci, I include doctors who've seen a patient.
Well, that's like 40 years, who knows?
And then verify it with your own research. Also, it's not pro-science to trust one person when about half of the scientific community, for example, was saying, hey, this thing may have leaked in a lab. Scientists from China who disappeared, right? You wouldn't know that, but maybe you could go check out our sources on our website, and maybe you'll understand this a little bit. Those scientists were saying one thing, but the organization who you go into bat for, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, banned that information from getting out. So it's just two different worldviews. You believe that your audience is so dumb they couldn't be trusted with the ability to research freely. That's the pro-censorship mindset that permeates the world right now. I believe in discussions with people regardless of what they believe, and that we provide, what, a minimum 30, sometimes 120 references per day.
Yep.
Almost all neutral, like PubMed, scientific journals, or left, like New York Times. You're not going to find a whole lot of conservative sources in there.
Yeah.
You do it?
But you're thinking about it, bro.
You're thinking
Like,
about
if
it.
I have a headache, I just go up to the medicine cabinet, take whatevs, and hope it
grab
goes
some
away.
pills, bro.
Just take some stuff. See what happens.
What happened to trust but verify?
Trust but verify.
Right? You believe in elitism. You believe that there is a government savior coming for you in every realm, and that you should listen to them. Well, that's how authoritarians come to power.
Well, why do you think a doctor doesn't prescribe you some stuff?
Yeah.
He's like, look, I'm just going to write it on here. There
Some
you go.
stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't know.
What does it do, huh?
By the way, since you're so pro-pharmaceutical company, and by the way, no, we're not anti-vax. I've talked about how many people should get vaccinated.
Yes, of
particularly old
course.
people. My mother who has pneumonia. I think then people need to make a decision. I think people have their own freedoms. Constitution would be an easy reference to start with.
It's a big document.
But this idea that I'm anti-vax, but since now all of a sudden you're this pro-pharmaceutical company guy. Well, listen, the reason that I do actually ask is because the commercials say, ask your doctor about Abilify. Go to the doctor and say, well, there's nothing I can do. You're just going to have psoriatic arthritis for the rest of your life. I don't know, what about mild to plaque, severe psoriasis? What about Abilify? Well, I guess we could try that. So they tell me to ask my doctor. I'm following those doctors, the pharmacists. So, the point is when you just follow one person, eventually, the blind mice get their tails cut off. He sort of mocked me, and ran out of steam and got to, I guess what is considered in the YouTube world a roast.
Oh. There's so much to say because I haven't really talked about him, but the dude has such small energy that he's wearing a holster. He wears a fucking gun holster, bro.
Oh my God.
Like he's so.
Me and 35% of Americans.
He needs a gun holster to feel like masculine.
Wait, he's wearing it as like an accessory?
Yeah.
Yeah, always.
Yes. He wears a gun holster, bro. And he's got tissues next to him in case,
Starts crying.
Finish the joke, buddy, in case, there's a
He
premise.
starts crying.
Get a punchline.
Mascara starts running.
Oh, gender. Watch
He's
this.
such beta energy with the fucking cigar,
Yeah.
the holster.
All these dudes,
God.
the cigar thing is just the overcompensation.
Yeah.
It's real.
Is this guy
Okay,
trying to
vape
dress
guy.
like Marty McFly, or is that actually an outfit he
Oh,
wears?
there's laziness again. It was a Back to the Future themed episode.
So sick. It's so fucking manly to just have a big brown turd in your mouth all the time.
Dude, and a holster? Man.
Wait, the Kleenex.
Let me just say, first of all, you
Hold
have.
on a second.
Get out of here.
That's due to allergies, okay? So I had a bronchial thing, which is community guidelines in a mutable condition. It's genetic. But I guess there's a ceasefire here, so we can talk about any genetic conditions like the lack of chin, lack of beard, 120-pound man wearing the Cinderella bandana on his head, trying to compensate with a beard that he uses just for men, or the eyebrow phrase like E.T. in the cornfield. It's so stupid, bro. The point is, very active. Immutable characteristics, let's be careful. But you were about to say something, no.
Well, you've always liked cigars. You're on a show to promote the responsible gun ownership.
Yes.
And then it's the same way as they have to look like Wayne and Garth transitioning to kind of be the further reach of YouTube censorship. To let to kind of put you in your.
Now we have to be careful because I don't know, because they can say you're so stupid, bro. I can't believe you're thinking for yourself. Look at him, he's got a small dick. But he's the kind of guy who then goes to YouTube and supports people being banned. Ethan, it's gotta suck to look yourself in the mirror and know that you've entirely changed who you are and your content to appease the powers that be. Look, maybe you didn't. Maybe you had a change of heart where all of a sudden you don't care about free speech and expression and you're pro-YouTube and you're pro-deplatforming and you're pro-demonetization. But let's be honest, that one of us here has changed our point of view. And yes, I do carry a holster, like many Americans, tens of millions of Americans. Why? To promote, to normalize.
Doesn't it feel real quick though, just as it's essentially just censorship being disguised as a let's get high and have fun podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Might think about anything.
Right. Look, I don't dislike you. I criticize an idea. Okay? You only do YouTube pissing contests with people. That's not what I do. That's not what I'm interested in doing. I just think that it's a bad thing to tell kids that it's stupid to think about issues or do your own research.
Yeah.
I disagree with that idea.
And saying that it's easy money, like it's a grift that's easy. Do you understand what demonetization is?
Yeah.
Which you advocate.
Exactly. Do you
You
understand?
support.
They don't pay us, even though sponsors are ready, willing, and able to put ads on our channel. They won't let us have it for even the most benign of
Hours of research, so easy.
To him,
the easiest
come
grip.
on, he doesn't do what we do, bro, which is put on beanies.
Just
and-
sit here.
and tell the story with our eyebrows.
Tim Allen lost his show. Anybody who's even remotely
Yeah,
right-wing in the
please.
Hollywood industry has lost everything.
Get that argument out of
What an
here.
easy
Such an
grift.
easy- such an
Look,
easy
yes,
grift.
what an easy.
Right-wing specials you see on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah, all those.
And even though you're Mr. Potty Mouth, how many strikes just for actually taking a stand? Let's just think about that. Not hate speech. We've never been accused of hate speech, violating. It's just taking a stand. Ever willing to take unpopular opinions? Ever willing to swim upstream? No. Instead, and this is where we really differ, and this is where I do think it's actually shameful, because once upon a time, Ethan Klein would have for people out there who knows, this is a big show on YouTube for other people watching, if they're still watching. I know most of them don't care about this, but they have a lot of young people who tune in. You would have Jordan Peterson on, and really, you remember, Portobello, you used to watch him.
Yeah, back in the day, he was really funny.
He was one of the few guys
Back
who was
in the
sort of
day.
anti-SJW censorship.
Yeah, yeah.
and then flipped.
Wow. Yeah, his content's completely different. He kind of dropped off.
A totally different person. I don't care if you don't like the content, totally different person in that now you advocate. Now, I've never, ever, I want to be clear, I don't think your channel should be demonetized or taken down, even though I think it's really, really bad to tell kids not to do research. I think that's bad. I think it's almost anti-educational. Hopefully I pronounced that about as correctly as you did, epidemiologist. I
Even if what you put out is so boring, it's anti-content.
This is the big difference here. I would never advocate that you be removed even though you're espousing bad ideas. I would never advocate that other people out there who espouse what I believe are bad ideas and provide no substantiation and frankly bully for a living, this is what he does, goes after often smaller channels. I still think that you have the right to do it. The difference here is you, Ethan Klein, and this is what happens with liberals, not only lines up with it consistently, supports active deplatforming, demonetizing, and removing points of view, which I don't know how you come up as an independent content creator and then do this.
The quartering is without a doubt a social justice warrior, except the causes he fights for are just different. I sentence him to be banned from Twitter and demonetized 20 billion times. It's the 15 videos, it's the misleading thumbnails, it's the joking about killing her, it's encouraging the audience to go raid her Discord and try to get banned and giving a cash prize. I mean, dude, there's this whole thing of like, they came for Leafy and you laughed, and next they came for you and nobody was there. It's like, dude, no. The guys
don't say it's like, dude. Explain, dude, what it is like.
YouTube apparently for demonetizing him.
I think he was locked out of uploading for a time, but yeah, I think at the moment he can. It's just that if he gets another strike, he'll be completely banned from the platform, and so he's out of an abundance of caution not uploading.
Got it. That's a good idea. I mean, I've seen his content. I mean, the one about
fun.
me was bordering on COVID misinformation.
Wow.
Like, he was flirting with it.
How?
There's certain things that Joe's been saying that's, like, dangerous, like the COVID shit. Like, he's telling his audience, don't get the shot. He's saying masks are for pussies. He literally just, like, the other day...
Fauci have to correct what Mr. Rogan
Yeah.
on his podcast.
Yeah. He said young, healthy people do need to get the vaccine.
Now, look. This is important here. I don't know everyone who he's talked to. It was a long list. We had to shorten down the montage of people he's attempted to get banned or removed. And maybe some people were actively breaking the law, actively calling about. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that doesn't matter. Sort of like when people say, abortion, what about for incest or rape? And you go, oh, okay, all right. If we allow abortion for incest or rape, can we then get rid of all late-term abortions? Well, no. Well, then don't bring it up.
Right.
Don't bring up that this person was actually breaking the law with speech because you think that it was medical misinformation to laugh at you for saying, don't even think about it, bro. Come on now. Do you not see the dangerous march toward fascism? Not march. You're there. You've reached King Koopa of fascism. You're jumping over things, hitting the key. I can't believe this. This is what's so scary is when you have people who have the ear of executives at YouTube who get these branding deals and they say, oh, it's almost medical misinformation. It's almost medical misinformation, bro, to say that you should think about it. This is how rumors get started. I have a problem with your ideas. I want to be clear about. I have a problem with the kinds of concepts that you are actually espousing and preaching to young kids. Okay, I really do. But I also want to be clear here. There's a problem with either you are so lazy that you are incapable of doing basic research, or you are a compulsive liar. Here we go.
I have an email, by the way, from his
Producers.
One of his producers trying to get me to come on the show. Here, I'll read it, because there's some funny excerpts in it. So, hi, I'm a celebrity talent booker for Louder with Crowder. I'd love to book Ethan Klein.
Ethan?
Ethan Klein.
Who?
They even bolded my name.
Because it's a clickbait farm. He doesn't even realize it.
Please click on it.
He probably thinks he has a real letter from Santa Claus.
Louder with Crowder is a syndicated show. Hosted by Steven Crowder, stand-up comedian. He was a host for 4 years on Fox News. He was their youngest ever contributor. It said Roger Ailes even had a round with him.
There's a laugh?
Steven's irreverent, edgy, yet distinctively conservative style has thrust him into the national success of appearing on most major cable shows. And then when I didn't respond this booker was so desperate to get me, she said,
Yes,
she responded.
such demand with fictional
5 days
bookers.
later, Good morning, following up on the below request. Can we find a day that works? And
They
then
emailed-
Stay with it,
7 days
I'll
later,
continue why it's a lie.
forwarded me the original email again.
Okay,
Well, first of all, they emailed him with a prank call.
to be clear, let me just, you know what? Under penalty of perjury, Gerald,
Uh-huh.
have I ever had a female booker?
That would be a no.
That would be a no. I've never had a female booker. That is either
Ever,
a
ever.
lie, or again, you are so late. I'm just going to say it. So mind-numbingly stupid that you don't understand, or you couldn't be bothered to do your own basic research, that this comes from a click farm that people use all the time to try and attach themselves to famous people. I don't know who that is. No one reached out to you. I've never worked with that person. That's how rumors get started. This is what happens. Our best booker reached out to her. You didn't disguise yourself as a lady and send out a mass email with his name clearly inserted in bold?
I mean, I may have gone on Rocket Mail and been like, hey.
It's like the Simpsons Krusty Camp where
I didn't.
I hope you kids are welcome, Counselor Black, to Camp Krusty. and objectively, I will say, look, we've talked about this. Dave Landau. Why is Dave Landau funny? Well, A, because people think people pay money to see him be funny.
Right, yeah.
People have done that for a long time. And
Full
professionals pay money to see him be funny. So humor is largely subjective, right? But there are objective sort of guardrails. We've talked about this, where you have, objectively, right, my left, your right, you have like Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, those kinds of people. And then you have objectively people who are unfunny, where nobody likes them. The kinds of people who do open mics for years at a time and no one sees. Ethan, right? People like that. And then in the middle, maybe you have your people like your Jerry Seinfelds, your Richard Jennings, your Dave Landau's, or maybe it's not for you. You aren't for anyone. We've just watched you just premise
the podcast.
Why does he have a tissue? Why does he have a tissue, bro? It's like, is it for yes? Yes. Is it for some type of compensation, masturbatory fantasy for Donald Trump? Is it for some kind of catching, we didn't know that AIDS was aerosol? I mean, I can write you 15 punchlines. I'm not saying they'll be gold, but at least we're swinging the bat. Look, I will say, this time I'll have my actual booker, my dad, write a joke about, he can do it, his dad, bro. Yeah, my dad works for me, doesn't he?
Yeah, because
Your wife is on a show. My dad actually worked in relations, worked in customer relations and booking before. I don't know that your wife has a resume of posting. If she does, good.
Well, your dad's also proud of you and still wants to speak with you.
This is true.
I'm not saying that might be different for other people. I
have no idea. That's entirely conjecture. But if I had to bet, bro, I wouldn't even have to think about it. So, look, I will say this. I will never, ever, after this, address you again, because I do feel like you're trying to bait people out there, trying to bait us into getting into a back and forth YouTube pissing contest where we never actually meet in person and never actually have a conversation. And I just usually, so I'm going to assume that you're not lying, because I never give debates or interviews to people who lie. Right? Like, hey, he said he was going to meet me at the town square. No, I didn't. I'm not going to give an interview. I'm not going to be baited that way. I think you got an email and you're dumb. I will invite you on the show, Ethan Klein. I will have I'll follow you on Twitter. I will have Darren, my booker, reach out where you can come on this show. And by the way, I will always be respectful. I will never interrupt. There's a difference between what we do here. It will just be me, you and I, and we can discuss the difference in our worldview, that you don't believe in providing references, sources, and you think it's stupid to think critically of any sort of governmenting body. I disagree with you, and I think it's a bad message to teach kids. You think it's really bad that I responsibly carry a firearm. Let's talk about the issues. An even playing field, no editing. You and I can talk about it. It is appointed to a man once to be invited on this show. Gerald knows this policy as well. He'll get this invitation once. If you decline, and everyone now knows that you will, you can keep talking about me if you want, but I will never address you again, because I have no interest in going back and forth with the kind of hackery that takes place there.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
on Sunday.
Right, Captain Obvious. Wow.
I had a busy weekend. I didn't do any painting this weekend at all. I did more entertaining than painting. So, it is what it is.
Ted Cruz. You know him as a Texas senator and blobfish who forgot to charge his electric razor. But there's so much more to the man than that. So let's get to know Ted Cruz in another episode of The Daily Showography.
March 4th, 2016.
Let's cut waste, fraud, and abuse. It's easy to say it.
Establishment Republican candidates were making their last stand against Donald Trump. And Senator Ted Cruz.
A set of statistics that I've been pulling out to make the point. Between Ghana and our neighbor Cote d'Ivoire, we produce 65% of the world's output of cocoa. The chocolate industry is a 100 billion United States dollars industry. And we, who produce 65% of its raw material, cocoa, make less than $6 billion from the toil of our farmers, i.e. barely 6% of the entire value chain of cocoa. The farmers, whose efforts make possible the growth of this lucrative industry, receive merely a pittance for their labors. This is not right. We need to change the statistics. If we simply ground and sold the cocoa in paste form, instead of selling the cocoa beans, we double our earnings. In much the same way as we double our earnings from gold if we sold it refined, then in its raw states. I do understand that there are nations who will build their industrial complexes around the value chain of our raw commodities. It is time to change that setup. In Ghana, through my government's one district, one factory policy, we're ensuring an even spatial spread of industries. This policy is intended to promote rapid rural industrialization at the district level, driven by strong linkages to agriculture and other natural resource endowments in order to create jobs and development. It's time we were responsible for processing our own resources. It is time that we in Africa manage our resources well to generate wealth for our populations. What is true of our agricultural resources is equally so, if not more so, for our mineral resources. 30% of the Earth's remaining minerals are to be found on the continent of Africa. We've been told by the highly respected former president of the Republic of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, chair of the high-level panel that produced a report on illicit financial flows from Africa, commissioned by the Joint African Union Commission and United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Conference of African Ministers for Finance, Planning, and Economic Development, that Africa is losing annually more than 50 billion United States dollars through illicit financial outflows. He revealed further that between 2000 and 2008, 252 billion, i.e. 56%, was from the extractive industries, including mining. Imagine the implications of us ensuring that even 50% of these amounts remain on the continent. We have to work feverishly at that. There's a critical need to involve young people in decisions that affect them. We cannot talk about sustainable development without the active involvement of youth. The former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon argues that when we give young people decent jobs, political weight, negotiating muscle, and real influence in our world, they will create a brighter future. Hence, Africa cannot talk about shaping the future without talking about the welfare and well-being of young people. It is important that Africa take these ideas forward to harness the value of a youthful population, holding human rights, gender equality, development of human capital, and dignity at the center of all of our investments. Only by providing opportunities that open the future to all young people do we create a brighter future. The median age in Ghana is 19 and a half years. Hence the overriding importance of democratic consolidation in Africa. Post-colonial authoritarian rule failed the African peoples. It continued the impoverishment of our people, which was the consequence of colonialism and imperialism. As a result, a new paradigm shift is being undertaken to guide the transformation of poor agrarian economies into value-adding industrialized economies on the basis of democratic values and institutions. Africa is indeed attempting something novel in human history. We're trying to use the instruments of democracy to propel societies from poverty to prosperity. All previous successful efforts in this direction have been made either by authoritarian regimes or by limited democracies. Britain is a case in point.
I only got my own pillow cube, a longer pillow for people who move while they sleep and still want to support the old noggin. And this one?
The 19th century Industrial Revolution took place against a background of limited franchise for the mass of the British people. Indeed, the wide extensions of the franchise by the Great Reform Acts of the 19th century went hand in hand with the evolution of the Industrial Revolution. And it was only in 1928 that women finally achieved the right to vote, long after the triumph of the Industrial Revolution. America is another case in point, where for most of the 19th and 20th centuries, a black population was denied the right to vote, even though the Industrial Revolution also triumphed in America in the late 19th century. We in Africa are proceeding on the basis of full universal adult suffrage and promotion of human rights on a broad scale. If we succeed, which I'm very confident we will, we would have done something unprecedented in human history. It would enable us to build a new progressive African civilization, grounded on a system of governance that respects individual liberties and human rights, the rule of law, and the principles of democratic accountability, and rooted in our own indigenous cultural identity to make its own unique contribution to the growth of world civilization. My speech has many of the makings of a dream, but it is a dream that is grounded in reality. I don't accept that the African has a DNA that dooms us to failure. Africans can, like all the other peoples that have succeeded, make life meaningful and worth living for their own people. We must cultivate an irrepressible desire to do right by the citizen. The resources of our nations belong to our people. They do not belong to the political class or any other elite. To appropriate the wealth of our nations for the benefit of a few is both morally wrong and criminally culpable. On my part, I've established the Office of Special Prosecutor, an independent, non-partisan body with relevant professional capability, led by a renowned anti-corruption campaigner, indeed who's a leading member of the opposition, to investigate and prosecute exclusively acts of corruption. The office is to lead the fight and hold public officials, past and present, accountable for their stewardship of public finances. Africans, dare I say, can and must do it themselves. We cannot expect others to do it for us. Many of us felt a sense of guilt and shame when the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair said, and I quote, "Africa is the scar on the conscience of the world, unquote.
Introducing SpeechAlert, the most natural sounding text-to-speech software on the market. Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from...
We can and must build Africa on a strong foundation of the ability and industry of its citizens, an Africa that exemplifies the true spirit of its people working towards, quote, Africa is the scar on the conscience of the world, unquote. We must build Africa on a strong foundation of the ability and industry of its citizens, an Africa that exemplifies the true spirit of its people working towards the common goal of better existence. Honest, disciplined management of public finances, strong macroeconomic fundamentals, competitive business environment, enhanced mobilization of savings and investments. These are some of the basic elements that have to be established to permit the growth of robust economies on the continent, which can then generate jobs and really rising living standards for our young people. They are the mix of Ghana's current economic profile, a mix that has enabled the Ghanaian economy to grow from 3.6% in 2016 to 8.5% in our first year of office in 2017, 6.8% last year, and a projected 7.9% this year, making Ghana one of the fastest growing economies in Africa. There is an abundance of dynamic entrepreneurial talent on our continent, struggling to express itself and take advantage of such conditions. We have to encourage this expression with full force and ensure that we can stand on our own feet and make it impossible for the systematic looting and plundering of our human and material resources that have characterized much of our modern history to continue. This is the significance of the concept of Ghana beyond aid, indeed, of Africa beyond aid. This year, we will be commemorating the 400th anniversary of the commencement of one of the most unfortunate and barbaric episodes of human history, the Transatlantic slave trade, when the first 20 West African slaves were brought to the Commonwealth of Virginia, which subsequently became part of the United States of America. Dubbed the Year of Return, the commemoration is a statement of our determination that never again should the African peoples permit themselves to be subjected to such dehumanizing conditions, sold into slavery, and have their freedoms curtailed in order to build up forcibly countries other than their own. And create wealth for the peoples of our unknown lands to which they were sent, wealth from whose enjoyment they were largely excluded. We also want to use the events of this year to solidify our relations with our kin and kith.
Alright guys, so anyone and everyone who's anyone can get traffic to their store, but can you actually convert it? Now, what we've done is we've put together this 100%
descendants of Africa here in the Americas and the Caribbean. It should be obvious to all black people in the world by now that their dignity and standing are intricately bound up with the dignity and standing of Africa. Thankfully, most of Africa has decided to chart a fresh and new path. It is my hope that it will serve as the impetus for reshaping our countries and constructing a new road of growth and development and freedom, which will lift the long-suffering African masses out of poverty into the realms of prosperity and dignified existence. Joseph Boakai Dankwa, the Ghanaian colossus who was the father of modern Ghanaian nationalism and founder of the political tradition that gave birth to my party, the New Patriotic Party, said as far back as 1961, over 50 years ago, the height of the 20th century Cold War, that the party's policy is, quote, is to liberate the energies of the people for the growth of a property-owning democracy in this land, with the right to life and freedom and justice as the principles to which the government and laws of the land should be dedicated in order specifically to enrich the life, property, and liberty of each and every citizen, unquote. This is our vision of human empowerment for Africa's golden future. It has been a great pleasure for me to spend my 75th birthday amongst you. It's an experience I'll not forget in a hurry. Once again, I thank you sincerely for making a part of this conversation and for your kind attention. May God bless the peoples of the United States of America and Ghana and Africa. Thank you.
Brought to you in part by
Here's the thing. This is something they try and sell you, and I want to tell you something. It is the exact opposite of the truth. Let me give you a summary really quickly, and you guys can tell me, people out there who are watching, if you're small business owners, what it would do to your business. They want you to think that a $15 minimum wage is something that these giant businesses can afford, and they're the only ones who oppose it. No, look. $15 minimum wage would crush, absolutely destroy small businesses. The only people who actually support it are the wealthy billionaires who earn over $1 trillion in net worth and earnings in this pandemic. Well, I'll get into that in more detail. But this is their talking point. Here's AOC saying we need a $15 minimum wage because people like Jeff Bezos, otherwise, well, just the rich friends will keep all the money to themselves.
Do you think that's why he's a billionaire? Because he pays his workers starvation wages? And
I think it's certainly a part of the equation when you have a very large workforce and you underpay every single person.
Yeah, but when you underpay every single person, like the 25,000 jobs she rejected from her municipality that paid an average of, $150,000 each. How are you supposed to live on that?
That's like what a congressperson gets paid.
Poverty wages.
It's like what I get paid, but if you couldn't do all the insider trading, because for them it's illegal.
She didn't leave herself any wiggle room at all. Every single person is paid starvation wages. Even the COO is starvation wages. I'm sorry, millions of dollars later.
Here's the thing. The $15 minimum wage is almost exclusively, and this is like you see with Amazon, supported by the biggest companies in the world. Yeah. You look at the most powerful companies, right? These super corporations. Why? Because it's a way to put smaller companies out of business. It's a perfect example. When this is just how government screws things up. You know, rent forgiveness. I don't know if you saw this in Georgia. Rent forgiveness. Well, what does that mean? Well, you just don't pay rent. Really? Yeah, it just means that you don't want to pay rent, don't pay rent. Well, guess what you can't find right now in Georgia? You can no longer find cheap housing because people who own these leasing apartments, they won't lease them out.
We started Carvana. They told us that selling cars 100% online wouldn't work. But we went to work, building an experience that lets you shop over 7...
It's one thing to have, burning a hole in your pocket if you keep it empty, this apartment. It's another thing to have an inferno in your pocket because people are using the utilities and damaging your property. Those are the unintended consequences. I remember landing in Michigan, and they said, oh, you can't go to any stores. Everything is shut down. Really? Aside from the weed shops and Costco. So I can't go to a farmer's market. I can't go to a local mom and pop store, but Costco and Walmart are still open, and Home Depot is still open. Well, you wonder why they support a minimum wage and the mom and pop store can't afford it. Just like big banks support the bailouts. Think about that for a second. Too big to fail. Why? Because there is no local bank that can come up and compete with them if they have a never-ending supply of federal funding. This is the issue. The Democrats, and this is why you see right now this changing the demographics, that the Republican Party is the party of the working class, sort of a blue-collar party. They always line up with big, powerful corporations, whether it's big tech for censorship, whether it's big corporations for minimum wage. Just look at the small business, all of the associations in America, small to mid-sized businesses, they all oppose it. Amazon, Google, those places, Target support it.
Yeah, absolutely. They can just drive the competition out. But not all jobs are worth $15 an hour. Right? We talked about that just briefly a second ago, but think about the jobs right now. I need to talk
with you after the show.
Come on. I want to be an intern. Hey, push me up to an intern. Look, we talked about it just a minute ago, but restaurants are disproportionately hurt by this because now, instead of having to bump you up to whatever it was, $8 or $10 an hour if you're like the worst server in the world and can't get enough tips over the course of an hour, now they have to bump you to 15. Guess what they're going to do? They're just not going to have as many people. They're going to be like, screw it, we can't come back. We've already been hit by this. In Texas, they were hit by the ice storm on Valentine's Day. They were counting on that money to come in for people wanting to go out. Now they're trying to reopen, and they've got this staring them in the face.
This is exclusively supported by the billionaires who they increased their earnings by $1 trillion in 6 months under the pandemic. Contrast that with 60% of businesses may be permanently closed. By September.
Do people not paying rent in Georgia have anything to do with the fact that Coca-Cola is there?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure.
As a doctor, I have been counseling my patients and my family to mask up outside, wash hands often, and try to stay home as much as possible. One thing to keep in mind when staying at home is the air pollution risk from
They just need to be less white if they are.
They do need to be. That's the joke.
Good thinking.
I explain jokes sometimes as well as step on them.
And here's the thing too. This is when sometimes they tip their hand when a journalist goes rogue and my God actually asks them a question. Where right now you have this man who basically says, well, you know what? Then if these small businesses can't afford a $15, then they shouldn't exist. He says it.
Well, of course, large businesses like Amazon and McDonald's, for example, can and perhaps should pay more. But I'm wondering, what is your plan for smaller businesses? How does this, in your view, affect mom and pop businesses who are just struggling to keep their doors open, keep workers on the payroll right now?
Well, they should be doing it by paying people low wages. We don't want low-wage businesses. I think most successful small businesses can pay a fair wage. So I love small businesses. I'm all for it. But I don't want small businesses that are underpaying employees.
By the way, it should be noted, it's easy to say when you've never worked for a business.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. When you've never signed that.
This is the danger with these people. Yeah. Joe Biden has spent 48 years in government. Yeah. AOC went to college, part-time bartender, and now she's in charge of your economic decisions. She's never not suckled at the taxpayers' teat.
Right.
That's the danger. I want you to think of the people in college who are part of the anarcho-socialist club, right? People who they love dabbling in economic theory and they never worked a real job. Now put them in charge of your business. That's what this bill is.
Yeah, and then they call it a fair wage, right? Well, okay, let me just explain to you how this works. I have a job that I need done. What's fair is me saying, hey, I think it's worth this much. You're going to add this much production to the value of whatever product or service that I'm putting out there. I get to tell you, and you have the choice of saying yes or no. Guess what? If you don't like the wage that your skills currently will earn you, go get more skills. That's the motivation.
At Great Wolf Lodge, we create safe stays for families to play. With flexible schedules and space to learn, you can be a part of a team.
for you. It's like giving a trophy to everybody. There's no motivation to perform better. You get a trophy anyway.
That same guy right there, I forgot his name, that representative, he said, really, if we just for inflation, like after the Great Depression and wage increases, right now the minimum wage should be $23 because that's in direct relation to their value contributed. That's what again, you think of just when you go and order, I don't know, a quarter pounder with cheese, only it's a nothing pounder with cheese. This has happened to me at the drive-thru, and $23 an hour.
I forgot to deliver pizzas because I was high.
Did you get tipped though?
No, I came back and I was like, oh yeah, I knew I had to do something.
The whole purpose for you leaving was to do that.
Oh yeah,
I'm
serious. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, when you're at that position, you don't have a skill set. That's why you're not making $15.
Yes, but for some reason, they only think of the consequence of the guy who deserves $23 an hour, $15 an hour, who's high delivering pizzas. They don't think of that business owner. Let's go through this scenario, okay? If you lived in a liberal state where all of their policies that they wanted in a dreamland, which they're kind of there, they could enact. Okay, so you're high and you don't deliver the pizzas, but the guy still has to pay $23 an hour because that's the minimum wage, and he can't fire you because of workers' rights, and you can't have a no-fault state for firing. So this person's going to continue being employed, but maybe they spend their money on drugs and they don't actually pay their rent, but they go home and they have squatters' rights, and you can't actually evict someone from rent. We've all seen Pacific Heights, so you can't kick them out of the apartment. He's not contributing to his job. He's not contributing to rent. We've hurt the business owner and we've hurt the landlord. But screw him, no rent, and let's pay someone this much regardless of performance. There you go. There's America. There's your American dream. We used to think it was work hard, get ahead, white picket fence, have a wife, some children, but now we know that destroys the environment. Now it's do nothing and get more than the guy who risked everything to create a business. You're America.
Yeah.
Well, where do they think the money's going to come from?
They don't.
That's
Rich people. Yeah. It's always rich people. They always have all the money, these rich people.
Well, yeah, it's like, look, it's going to be $16 for your Big Mac. And you're like, as long as they're getting money.
No, I'm just pissed that I have to pay that much for a crappy burger.
As long as I know that those people who slap their clientele at the midnight or 2 in the morning World Star hip hop videos are getting $22 an hour, I feel good about patronizing the Waffle House.
Well, you know what McDonald's did is they just went to these self-service kiosks. So like, all right,
we'll put in robots.
They're not worth that much money.
Yeah, in New York, they have ATM machines, and it's just like homeless people licking them, and you're like, I'll pass.
I mean, just think, when was the last time you saw a bag boy?
Yeah.
Think about it. We just demanded that we increase wages, and now you've given yourself a job at the grocery store. You have to do your own checkout.
Exactly.
That's true. The only bag boy is just running cash for cartels.
It pays more than $15 an hour.
And it's worth every penny.
And they really just use them as a bag. It's just more. It's just more. It's less offensive than mule. But that's just what can actually be quantified. Not to mention again the 60% of businesses that were open in April will be closed by September.
Unbelievable.
But Amazon won't be affected by it. And here's the thing: if only we had some specific examples. You know, American Samoa is one of them, and we've all seen those people. Terrifying. They have more per capita NFL players than anywhere else in the world. They're insanely strong.
Very true.
So you would think, in other words, they could be industrious. Well, no. American Samoa, they were devastated by a minimum wage, right? They had tuna canneries, that was their main. They had two major tuna canneries, I believe, and they were sent to Georgia, right? Then there was a recent $4 wage hike, a $4 wage hike in Long Beach, and what happened was just Kroger just decided to close their stores. They said, well, we can't, we just closed their stores.
Yeah. Wow.
So all the Krogers in Long Beach, gone.
That's insane.
But we have these real world examples where you have these little microcosms like they happen in California or American Samoa, and they...
Next pillow. Why do we make our pillow in the shape of a cube? I'll tell you. The problem with pillows is that you're trying to fit a round peg into a square.
Have it bounce back. By the way, this is something else that people don't necessarily take into account. So there were skilled jobs in New York. We were talking about Amazon, right? Yeah, 20-something thousand jobs at well over 6 figures average, by the way.
Billions of dollars in tax revenue.
Yeah, unbelievable. But that wasn't enough. So that's how you know she doesn't really care about the minimum wage. She didn't want jobs that were paying 6 figures for crying out loud. But Amazon has openly supported a $15 minimum wage, and they pay a $15 minimum wage. But as they virtue signal about that, they actually just eliminated workhouse productivity and stock options for their lowest skilled workers. So it actually resulted in a net loss of income for many of their employees. Hey, do you know who don't have stock options and productivity options? Small businesses. So Amazon says, well, yeah, sure, we can pay $15 an hour. They decrease all of these options, all of these benefits, and the worker is left holding the bag man.
Well, look, somebody is going to end up paying. The companies are going to cut benefits. Sack man. It's better that way. They're either going to cut benefits, they're going to cut jobs, they're going to bring in automation, they're going to do all of these things. And Bernie Sanders and AOC, if they really are trying to help people out, instead of this whole fight for 15 campaign, how about earn 15? Yeah. That would help more people out there than you trying to change the minimum wage in 5 years, by the way, when it would fully kick in.
I would just love for once, like you were talking about how you forgot to deliver pizzas because you were
real
in an altered state.
Honest moments. Yeah.
I just wish, because Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris would get the I get the burgers, I get the ice cream.
I worked at McDowell's.
So what I would just love is when you have these folks who say, like, well, you know, I believe that everyone, not everyone, and can we also just acknowledge that that's not really an outlier? It's not just a few. There's a huge percentage of the American workforce who would rather get high or who would rather not be productive, collect their check. They don't care what that business does. They don't care if that place stays in business. A lot of people don't care about their job and don't care about contributing. They just want to clock in and clock out. That's just the reality. I just wish that they acknowledged it, but they act as though every employee, this is what Marxism is based on.
No one's journey looks the same, but everyone's.
Everyone has ownership of their space, and every employee should own a piece of that company. And the truth is, it's not the reality, and they're not outliers. A huge percentage of this workforce does not give a rat's ass and should be paid accordingly. They should be paid, not give a rat's ass wages.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get nervous when I ask somebody for something at a store when they're an employee.
Yes.
They just get mad at you.
I know.
It's like, well, you know what? You need a raise.
We need more of you in this store.
By the way, CrowderShop.com, you still have until June 9th to get it for Father's Day. We have a Tumblr right here, Best Dad Ever. So we're selling some Father's Day.
Love that hat.
Go to that merch.
So he compared the Allied troops of D-Day in Normandy to Antifa. He said that they just watched 20 veterans send me letters.
And the folks at the Lincoln Project are out with a reminder to all.
Who is Antifa? They stormed the beaches of Normandy, parachuted into the French countryside, and gave their lives to face down and fight back against fascism. They took down Nazi machine gun nests, tore apart the Third Reich's strongholds.
Not really.
Machine gun nests?
Italy, Belgium, Holland. Anywhere Antifa saw fascism, they fearlessly and relentlessly.
Send in the purple-haired lesbian down into that trench, see how it works out.
Fascism was defeated because of patriots like these. Proud Americans who knew that the fight
depends what it's being used for,
was not simply a battle between opposing nations.
She does the, like the Peter Pan dangarang, holds up her legs, becomes a human volleyball.
A war that isn't nice, but cannot be lost. A war we still fight today.
Still fighting against Donald Trump. Yeah. Where do you see the American flags at rallies? Who wears the American flag pin? Who actually pulled down American flags and monuments? To the Antifa. Let's not act as a... Come on, everything about that is fantastic, except for the commentary and opinions.
Yes.
In claiming that Antifa today would be fighting against fascism by using fascism, right? Silencing political opinions and othering people who disagree and getting rid of them. That's exactly what Mussolini did. You didn't look up the definition, Lincoln Project.
Well, they're stepping on a swastika, and the other example is The Last President.
Right. Great. Yeah, it's like great. Good one. Yeah, exactly. The guy who had a Jewish son-in-law and was the single biggest supporter of Israel of any modern presidents. Yeah. But they side up with the Islamic states, who, by the way, if you look back into the Nazi regime, look and see what a lot of these Middle Eastern Arabic countries where they lined up. They hate the Jews too. You hate Jews? We hate Jews. You hate Jews because of Muhammad? That's because of us. It's because I'm a pagan. Well, you know, different strokes, but we all hate Jews. Yes, that's correct. And no one ever wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about it. And by the way, there's still, I would argue, there's still remnants of that in the Middle East. But remnants? No. But hey, also, that was from the Lincoln Project, I need to note. So Brian Williams was showing that from the Lincoln Project, who were, remember the Lincoln Project? They were a Republican organization, and then they, it was a pedophile organization, and now they're just, anti-Trump. But tomorrow was actually a 1-year anniversary of Chaz in Seattle by current Antifa. I remember very well. And so they didn't show this on Brian Williams, but coming out today, we actually have, I think, an exclusive, the new Lincoln Project video on Antifa today.
Who is Antifa? In 2020, they stormed the city of Seattle and created the autonomous zone Chaz, but then changed the name to CHOP because they needed stuff. Stuff like cafe lattes, gluten-free bread, and super cool sunglasses. In the last year and a half, all over this country, everywhere Antifa saw fascism, they relentlessly annihilated it. In Minneapolis, they liberated a black firefighter from his bar. In New York, they freed shop owners from their goods. And in a well-to-do suburb of Detroit, this soldier told his mom to shut the fuck up, stupid bitch, when she asked him to please wear a jacket because it was getting chilly out. Fascism was almost defeated because of patriots like Antifa. But fascism still exists today, and the fight against it is still strong. Anti-fascism isn't just a cable news talking point. It's an American ideal that should be memorialized because it was paid for in blood and skateboards.
You know, sometimes you don't realize you mock something, you don't realize who you hurt.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yo, what up, everybody? Man, it's hot as shit up in here.
or just because we're going to Mexico tomorrow. Madam Vice President, there have been questions about why you and President Biden have yet to visit the border, the U.S. southern border. And I'm wondering if you can answer some of those. Republicans have charged that you're not taking the situation there seriously. So how do you respond to that criticism, and when will that visit come?
On the issue of Republicans' political attacks or criticism or even concerns, the reason I am here in Guatemala as my first trip as Vice President of the United States is because this is one of our highest priorities, and I came here to be here on the ground to speak with the leader of this nation around what we can do in a way that is significant, is tangible, and has real results. And I will continue to be focused on that kind of work as opposed to grand gestures.
You're very special, kid. I've been quested to take you back to the Jedi. The Empire.
As a developing nation, Ghana's focus on infrastructure growth is aimed at driving socio-economic development and enabling greater productivity within the various sectors of the economy. The annual infrastructure funding gap is estimated at $1.5 billion for the next decade, and government and private sector participants are developing innovative ways to bridge this gap. This has increased the reliance on project financing for the development of both privately funded infrastructure and public-private partnerships. Ghana's infrastructural foundation has transitioned rather progressively over the past 20 years, facilitating the nation's economic and developmental growth. The infrastructural base has seen significant investments, with projections portraying a continuous growth in the trend to align with the nation's set infrastructure goals. The past year has seen a renewed focus by the government and the private sector on infrastructure projects such as real estate investment projects, rail constructions, road expansion projects, among others. In this video, we will take a look at 10 game-changing mega projects set to reshape Ghana. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more exciting future videos. Make sure to leave a comment below about the project you find most exciting. Number 10, The Signature, Accra. The Signature by Cape May Properties are in a prime location close to the Kotoka International Airport, Accra Mall and Airport City. A gorgeous cluster of luxurious apartments infused into a pair of identical towers, located in the capital city of Ghana, Accra. The towering architectural masterpiece is unique in its design and art, and conveys a message of strength and resilience, inspired by Ghana's Adinkra emblem. The renowned Micheletti Group, known for their outstanding work with the 9-story One Airport Square complex, is responsible for the design and construction of the signature, which commenced back in January 2019. The framework will constitute 209 studio apartments, with the property's starting price from $85,000 studio apartment to $350,000 for bedroom and penthouse apartment. The concept of the signature laces a sophisticated architectural spectacle with a number of resourceful amenities such as gyms, yoga, ballet spaces, poolside bars complementing the swimming pools, paired with an indoor and outdoor playground, and a conspicuous display of flora, while delivering a picturesque view of the city as the cream of the crop. The 13th-floor signature apartments is estimated to cost around $50 million, and the constructions is set to be completed by mid-2021. The signature apartment is a finesse-styled, luxurious property equipped to deliver service point of view from a concierge service and an in-residence dining to a dedicated residential management team, offering unmatched customer service to its clients.
Why anyone watched it, but Logan Paul fought Floyd Mayweather, and we just have to touch on it real quick. Yeah. There's some things that you may have missed. It's time for our Asian sports correspondent to break it down. All right, Junior Choi, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Steven. How are you?
I'm okay. And you're a fan of combat sports, I guess?
Yeah, I actually enjoy a good fight every now and then.
Yeah, do you? Yeah, well, you're Korean, right? So you
yeah.
Up in it.
Yeah, I did a little bit of taekwondo when I was younger, so really? A little experience in a little fighting.
You throw a mean kick?
I think so.
Okay, well, yeah, that means no.
That's enough.
That's hard pass. So for people who didn't tune in, this was a YouTuber, Logan Paul, and I will say this. I give the guy respect for getting in the ring, obviously.
Yeah. But he's doing the work.
There was no story to be told here because everyone knew it was the best defensive boxer of all time, Floyd Mayweather. Ali, Tyson, no one's even close, versus a guy who's fought 3 times and I think lost twice. And so it ended exactly how you thought it would end, but you were saying there's more to the story here, though, in breaking it down.
Yeah, so, obviously, for those of you who know, the fight went for 8 rounds without a knockout, so that was actually surprising, a huge upset.
He was there when the bell was ringing, he was still standing.
Yeah, exactly, and there were no judges or anything, so no one kept track of the scores because it was an exhibition match, so it doesn't go on either of the records.
Right.
But yeah, but the important part here is that the riveting part about this is their defensive strategy.
Right, defensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Floyd is known as a defensive boxer.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's go into the first clip here.
Okay.
So you can tell that they haven't seen each other in a while. They're excited, clearly happy to be together. Obvious chemistry right there. Look at them together.
Yeah, I suppose.
And right there it is. Perfect technique. Paul's got his fist gently on the small of Mayweather's back.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Okay.
Caressing.
I don't know about the relevance of the time apart, but so this is the heart grow fonder technique.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a loving embrace. Paul's got his arm underneath, kind of holding there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, none of us are boxers, really, so you're breaking it down. Okay, that's good defense. All right.
Now, let's get into the second clip, actually.
Okay.
A bit more of it in here.
Yeah.
So you can see here that the loins are burning here, Steven. Okay. Now this is a really good hug. Very personal. Right in Paul's ear, Mayweather is letting him know, I can't quit you. Just flawless defensive technique.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, I'm not entirely sure that you really are combat sports adept.
But you can clearly see that they are like loving each other, like loving him.
Well, I think there's professional admiration for competition.
There's respect.
I don't know about an Ang Lee line.
You know what? Let's get into the final clip, and we'll see right here. Very good. Right here. So this is brilliant defensive technique being used here by both fighters. They're clearly touching tips.
Whoa. They're not touching tips at all.
No. Gloves, Gerald. Gloves.
Tips.
The tips of the gloves.
Okay.
Clearly they're going to spend many happy years together, and I, for one, couldn't be more excited for their future together.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can't teach better defensive technique than this, Steven.
Actually, I believe you can. All right, Asian sports correspondent, you've helped zero. All right.
I feel informed now. Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Even with the AC and the fan on, yo, it's still hot as a bitch in this motherfucker, yo. God damn. Alright, I'm about to give you something cold to drink. Chill out for a minute. All right, yo, I'm out of here. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.